everyone. Welcome in, welcome in. Today is July 29th, 2026. I'll take chair privilege and wish my brother a happy birthday. He's in Atlanta, so happy birthday, Aaron. But you are entering into the Urban and Economic Development Committee meeting. It's 10:30 on Wednesday. And my name's Anthony Archie. I lead District 2 on the west side. And first order of business, we'll call the meeting to order. Number 2, Athena Laws, appointment to the Sales Tax Overview Committee, replacing Charles Wilkies, whose current term expires December 31st, 2026. Upcoming term expires December 31st, 2030. Hailing from District 2, Athena.
District 1.
I'm sorry.
District 1.
I've adopted you into the north side. She says, no, thank you, north side. District 1, welcome. Please, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and why you want to serve?
My name is Athena Laws. I need to update my driver's license. 5 months ago, I got married to my best friend. And so I'm excited to continue to live in North Tulsa, mother of a 27-year-old, 4 grandchildren, and 2 dogs. So
Wow.
I am born and raised in North Tulsa. I grew up, the extent of my childhood was in Turley, so I lived deep. Okay. But I've loved Tulsa all my life. I went to college in Ohio, but then I came back. I know.
Where in Ohio?
Dayton.
Oh, okay, went to Oberlin.
So went to college, came back. I wanted to boomerang back in 2005. Bought my first property in 2008 in the North Star area, Phoenix district. And I just love it. I can't leave it. I just cannot leave it. I ran for president for vice president first in my neighborhood association, and then I became president. So I've just been engrossed and ingrained in my community, and I love it. I have been wanting to see change since 2008 because I just felt the promise. I felt that it was going to happen, and I knew that I needed to stand up as my neighborhood association and just embark that vision along with Tracy Chandler and some of the other community leaders on that side of town. And so that's a little bit about myself. Why I wanted to be a part of this committee is, one, because someone asked me to.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times in our society, in the line of work that I work in, you have to, sometimes you just have to ask people, and then they want to participate. I have been a part of the Black Wall Street Legacy Festivals. I've volunteered at the Blue Dome District Arts Festival. I've volunteered at Oktoberfest. I've embraced the Tulsa Remote program when they came here. So I was the TN, which stands for Tulsa Native, and they are the TRs. So I've always joked back and forth with them. So that community, I love them. And I just feel like I'm a long overdue pillar of my community. Raising my son here, knew it was a beautiful place to raise my son. And I just have hope that Tulsa can be one Tulsa on all parts. I really truly believe that motto that I think the city has definitely have been embracing. And then also, that's what I wanted to say, that I'm a pillar, a long overdue pillar in my community, and I feel like I would be able to continue what my grandparents did. They were part of the Black Greenwood District, Black Wall Street. They had a fish market down there. So I just feel like it's time for me to be a part, and I was asked by our fearless leader, Ms. Vanessa.
Thank you for asking, Councilor Hall Harper. Councilor Dutton, good. What did you want to?
No, I was just say thank you for your willingness to serve, and I know you will do well. Like she said, she's very active in the community, and so when I had an appointment, I walked up to him and I just said, hey, I need you to serve the Sales Tax Overview Committee. And she said, yes, I'll do it. So thank you so much.
Councilor Dutton?
I just want to tell you thank you for serving as well, and we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay eternally. Appreciate your community service as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilor Bangle?
Obviously, anybody who's excited about their community as you are and has lived here their whole life and has raised their family here, I think it's great that they're willing to serve. And this committee specifically has always had some challenges of keeping people engaged in that and having the oversight. And that's really what this is about, is the oversight of projects and the spending and reporting that back to the community and seeing that what we committed funds to is actually being built. And so
Yes.
I think some people think this is like a pity or, low-level ABC,
This is
but it
the-
is not. It
This
is
is it?
Yes.
one of the most
High
important,
energy.
in my opinion. I'm grateful for you.
Yeah.
willing to
I
serve in
reviewed the
that capacity.
165-page report, so, and I was touched and heavily honored to see that District 1 was embedded in a lot of the projects, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I knew I could see change. I'm driving in the community, I'm seeing the Greenwood Culture Center being remodeled, and just different things that are going on, so I'm really excited.
And I used to work for the city in the 90s, and I used to work
so
at the
long
radio
ago.
shop up north.
Almost 40 years
North
ago.
Tulsa has changed significantly in the last 30 years from what it was in the mid-90s. So obviously, it's on a path of prosperity
Yes.
and growth. And so I'm encouraged, and I hopefully, and it sounds like you are.
I'm
you're
very encouraged.
So thank you for your willingness to serve.
Counselor Gilbert.
I just want to echo, thank you so much for signing up to do this. And this commission it's all about energy, and your energy here at the table is fantastic. I love it. So
Thank you.
you bringing that energy to this committee is great. I love it. I do have kind of a personal question to ask you.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a American Bully, and my husband brought a German Shepherd.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
I love it.
Okay, best friends?
Not
Okay,
so
they're
much.
working on that. Okay.
You're amongst animal lovers. I
Oh,
hear.
great,
Yeah.
great, great,
Yeah.
awesome.
So, but-
Immediately, I think of that cartoon,
We have
Can
some
I hang
cat-
with you,
cats?
Spike?
But I appreciate you also signing up and serving on this.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So next steps, we will be voting on your appointment August 5th.
Okay.
And, I'll just say I support you for sure. And so you will be able to speak at the meeting if you'd like, but you don't have to.
Okay.
You can attend if you want, but you don't have to. But a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right.
Have a great day.
Thank you, you
All right.
too.
Counselor, has Amari come? Not
No.
yet? Okay, all right. This is what I want to do. We're going to change up the agenda just a little bit. We're going to go to number 9 real quick because there's a,
Without objection.
without objection, right? Does anyone object? Anyone? Okay, great. Let me read it and then we'll move forward with it. Resolution of the City of Tulsa, Oklahoma, urging the Tulsa County Election Board to add an additional early voting location in North and/or Northwest Tulsa.
No,
Read the
Oh, I'm sorry.
amended one.
Sorry, there's an amended language, so let's do this. Amended language. Resolution of the City of Tulsa urging the Tulsa County Election Board to add an additional early voting site in North Tulsa for, for North Tulsa for the August 2026 election and future election dates, promoting the use of city facilities as early as possible, early voting locations, and encouraging the broader Tulsa community to support early voting efforts through volunteerism and opening the doors as potential partner locations for safe and secure early voting. This comes with the emergency clause and is brought to us by Councilor Hall, Harper, Dutton, Bellis, and Dexter Wright.
yes. And so I would like to invite Senator Goodwin and Alicia Andrews to the table for additional context. I will say that this issue was brought to my attention about a month and a half ago. And as Senator Goodwin will explain, she's been working on this for well over a year and a half. But it's an issue of grave concern, it's certainly as we are approaching elections in August, and how important it is for access to voting of all Tulsans. And so I will tee this up or share this with, I'll pass this over to Senator Goodwin and Alicia so they can talk a little bit more about the history and some of the meetings and conversations that have taken place as it relates to this issue. But obviously, having access to voting is important to all of us. And so I felt that this was something that we needed to resolve as a council.
Senator Goodwin?
Thank you, Chair. To the city councilors that are here, Absolutely. We have been working on this for the last year and a half. So it's not like we started late. It's not like we all of a sudden developed an interest. What we knew is that when the Tulsa County Election Board was going to move more than a year and a half ago, that because for some 40 years, that site had served the north side, it had served anybody that was in the downtown area, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Black, White, Asian, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans. It's not about any of that. It is about having a site that is accessible for early voting. And when that site was removed, that left a gaping hole and a constituency that was once served. And we thought, getting ahead of it a year and a half ago, that we could see what kind of satellite could be provided on the north side, as had been provided at Hardesty Library on the south side for approximately 14 years or so. And I appreciated my tax dollars being used for those folks that literally said, we don't want to drive all the way north, is there a place that's more convenient? Made sense, and we thought it's a simple deal of let's identify a site on the north side that can accommodate those folks that choose to vote early. So what we're finding is that June has been bypassed. We had state questions. They're attempting to bypass August. We have critical elections in August, more state questions, and actually another municipal question on the ballot. This, you guys, we have tried to work in very conciliatory fashion, and for me, it's very simple. We do know that the 555 North Denver building, which served for 40 years as the site for all of our operations, is still available. We have offered, pastors have met, we've met with the election board folks, they've offered their facilities on the north side. So we don't come complaining, we come with our constituency advocating for solutions. And we know we have solutions, we just have to have the collective will to move forward. And so we appreciate the resolution that's being offered. We appreciate the thoughtfulness and just understanding that we got a whole bunch of folks that could utilize that location. And they have added a secondary early voting site, but they decided to move it to Broken Arrow. So it's even further out than the 12,000 East Skelly Drive site that is now available. And so that is why we're here, and that is why we would certainly appreciate, certainly you're already providing a thoughtful consideration, but passage of that resolution which provides support.
Do you want to
I don't
add?
know that I have more to add than what the senator said, except to thank the city council for taking this up, because it is that important. I am a voter participation advocate, and I think it is incredibly important that we remove all obstacles and we make it as easy as possible for everyone to have an opportunity to vote. And having both our primary location and our satellite location being in East Tulsa, be it regular east and way southeast, doesn't feel like it takes all of Tulsa into consideration. Additionally, as the senator mentioned, the Hardesty location, I feel like when my car drives one way, it's the same difference when it comes back. And if the Tulsa County Election Board felt it necessary and reasonable to put a location out in South Hardesty, out at South Hardesty for Southside folks, which I applaud, because everyone should have access to the ballot box. The logic of putting one back out north just should follow. And so my big thing is about voter access. This is about equity and voter access and full consideration.
Thank you for those words. Does anyone have, Councilor Bangle, and then
Yeah.
Bellis, Councilor Bellis.
I think I would start out by, I'm a little challenged by us taking up this resolution, simply because this is a county issue and it's regulated by the state. And so I think state law requires for us to only have one early voting location. Is that not right, Senator?
No. I appreciate that. You're talking about Title 26 and state law, actually, and I'm going to read it for you, because I don't like for us to be narrow or constricting in how we look at law.
Right.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I don't know why you stopped.
No,
Keep going.
because I know you understand state law, and that's why I'm looking at you.
Okay.
And for that reason, I'm going to read it, what it says. At no point does it say only one. And so the law actually reads like this. It's in Title 26 Oklahoma statutes, it says, "The Secretary of the County Election Board in counties with 25,000 or more registered voters, or with an area in excess of 1,500 square miles, may designate more than one location as an in-person absentee polling place for an election, subject to the approval of and pursuant to the procedures prescribed by the Secretary of the State Election Board." That's very
Right,
permissive
Senator,
language.
but your operative word there is may.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm asking about what is required of a county election
Mm-hmm.
board for early voting.
Right.
Does the state require a minimum of one?
And so let me say this, what the law says is that they may designate more than one, and I think you know
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
last 14 years, they've engaged in 2 sites, and they're saying now they want to engage in a 3rd. So that's permissive language when you know that you want to serve as many folks as possible, when you want to provide voting access to as many folks as possible. I think they engaged in 2 over the last 14 years or so because they know they may do more than one location. So again, as I read that, and you're absolutely right, it is permissive language, so we are permitted, we
Right.
may do more than one, and we have done that for a number of years.
I'd
But-
like to add something to Councilor Benkel's point. I think that we should strive to do better than the bare minimum,
Right,
right?
and I totally agree.
Cleveland County has half of the citizenry that Tulsa County has, and they have 6 early voting locations. I'm not advocating for 6 early voting locations, but they've taken seriously voter access for their entire county, and I am urging for the 2nd largest county in the state to do the same.
And to add to the question that I was asking, if we start down this path, right, I would argue that when the election board was here in North Tulsa, I had constituents that had that same issue of, driving distance and accessibility. To me, I don't pretend to understand the site selection process that is going through to stand up an early voting location. I don't pretend to understand the logistics, the training. I think some of us remember Councilor Bellis, Councilor Miller, and I all got elected simultaneously in that same election cycle. And there was one election that had to go to the court process. Obviously, training poll workers is relevant to that. I don't know what that ramp-up time is. Security, the cost, this comes from the county budget, not our budget.
No, we pay for.
Yeah, I'm talking about it for our elections, right? But this is
That's
in
my concern.
perpetuity that you're proposing this, right?
No,
Just for
they
this
make those
election?
decisions, they make those decisions during each cycle, but yes, we want access, yeah,
Yeah, but I'm
Into
saying you would
perpetuity.
want this early voting site in perpetuity.
absolutely.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, is I don't pretend to understand all those logistics, so I don't know that whether a discussion has been held with the county commissioners who oversee that budget. I just don't have enough, and this feels a bit squishy to me. From a personal perspective,
Okay.
it feels like I'm interfering in a process
Okay.
that I benefit from.
I appreciate that, if I may.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate, one, we have talked to the county commissioner. County commissioner actually said they would not be opposed to that site. I specifically talked, we provided a number, but I specifically talked about 555 North Denver, which for the last 40 years have served well in that capacity. The county commissioner said he would not be opposed, but he would certainly want to see what the Secretary of the Election Board says. We also understand that by law, the Secretary of the Election Board makes that decision. We were able to, not as you say, interfere or intervene, we were able to collaborate, we were able to advocate for a precinct that we provided, and it's in use now. I think with our tax dollars, certainly, we don't consider that squishy, we consider that constituent advocacy. And to your point, at the state level, we have increased pay for those folks that participate in our elections. So we are doing what we can as a public body to encourage folks to get out and to be trained. And I can assure you, I would think that a year and a half is plenty of time to get someone trained and ready for early elections. What seems to happen is that we are bypassing June. They're now attempting to bypass August, and say, oh, we'll be ready for November. So if you can get ready for November and bypass some, I think, very critical elections, I think you sit in the seat that you now serve, knowing that there are some elections that are coming up, some state questions that are coming up. And so I love the choice of words. I think that's what freedom of speech is all about. What you consider squishy, we consider advocacy. We consider it making sense of a process that serves everybody, your constituents, everybody. Anybody can use that early voting site, as they have done. When you say you're challenged about the process, we're saying that tax dollars are being used. We know folks want to have access. We know the downtown area in particular use that site. So folks from all over Tulsa that drive downtown, they have the opportunity to go in there and vote early. That's 3 days. So that's what we're talking about. And I would hope that knowing that this is a process that is about democracy, that you know it is about having access, that would not be challenging to any of us. I would hope that we would see, how do we collaborate and how do we have the collective will to do what best serves most folks?
You're absolutely right, Senator. I would want every citizen who's eligible to vote, right? And I think by the different avenues of mail-in voting, early voting, right? To me, this kind of opens a can of worms because this is a county election board, a county early voting location, right? We have people from Collinsville, Sperry, those folks, have to drive significant distances, but are we advocating just as equally for early voting for those same folks? Because this is the point that I'm making. It's not about geopolitics to me.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It's not about geopolitical issues. This is about accessibility, right? And I'm going to assume that it's kind of like when you site select, what is the easiest way to access this? What is the largest place that I can accommodate or use to accommodate as many people? Because in my view, early voting kind of falls in line the same way with mail-in voting. You're doing it a little early, right? You're getting your mail-in ballot, you're having it casting your vote, and then you're having it notarized and then mailed in, right, to have your vote counted. This allows you to vote outside of your precinct voting, which now the county election board is coming to your precincts, right? So on election day, you stand up, you have precincts within your districts that the county election board sends poll workers with your rolls, and folks come into their precinct and vote. So to me, there's a lot to consider here, and because like I said, this is new to me. I don't know what the conversations have been and how you got here to this point, but I just don't feel comfortable, Senator, kind of imposing or suggesting something in something I don't have purview over. And what I mean by purview is I'm not part of the county election board. I don't run their budget. I don't run their policies. The state does that.
Ms. Andrews, did you want to say something?
I did.
And then I'll throw it to Councilor Bellis.
So what I told you, I'm a voter advocate.
Yes,
So in the states where voter participation is high, it is high because they make voter access high. Oklahoma always ranks in the bottom 2 of voter participation. And so I'm here to fight for this because I want to make sure that we have all the access possible. And when you ask, am I fighting as hard for Collinsville and Skytook and those kinds of places? Actually, I am. Those places, in this girl's opinion, are north. And so when we moved everything east and when we moved things out far south, we actually made it more difficult for those northern locations as well. And so putting a place out north makes it a little bit easier for those folks that you mentioned as well. And so I'm all for figuring out how we can make it easier for people to participate in this process, particularly in a state where participation is hindered, where we are bottom of the barrel in voter participation. I did a lot of research on, both traveling and using the internet on voter participation and what increases voter participation. and it's access. And so I'm grateful that I live in a state that has no excuse absentee balloting, which you mentioned, and that we have early voting. We have the shortest window of early voting of any state in the nation. And so we need to make it as easy as possible to get there for those 3 days for the people who choose to participate.
Yeah, and finally, I would just say, and I'll shut up after this, I understand the challenges of having a location that's been there for 40 years, and now it's a shock and a shift in a shift. But I would say my voters in East Tulsa who live all the way out in Wagner County, I represent all the way to 257, have had this same challenge for decades.
Let's solve it for everybody.
And that's
What's that?
wonderful.
Let's solve it for everybody.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So I'm not the expert. That's what I would expect the folks who have oversight over this to be engaged in that conversation. I just don't feel like this is in my wheelhouse.
Counselor Bellis.
So, no, I think I appreciate your point, just to quickly address, and then I'll go to kind of an exhibit I have ready, and I might, Sarah, will we be able to pull it up? Cool, then I'll Vanna White it in a second. But I just want to mention, because I think what you raised about, is it within the council, like what does it mean for us as counselors to do a resolution saying that we think that this should happen to the election board? And, you know, is that our lane, is kind of what I heard you saying, and I totally get that. Though, of course, we also definitely advocate for things to the legislature, and I understand, you know, I don't think that's unusual for us to engage with other kind of governing bodies or parts, you know, other parts of government to go, hey, we think this should happen. So I kind of view a resolution as just us going, hey, we really affirm that this is something we think would be best for our community, more than us, like, we can't make, per your point, we can't, of course, make the county or the election board do something, but I think we can say, hey, we think this is important. And one of the big reasons, like, you know, I'm a data nerd, I'm gonna Vanna White this, so I,
Just don't touch the board.
yeah, I know, as a former teacher,
Don't
had a
touch it.
smart board, and I do not. What I wanna highlight, because I got curious when this was first brought to me, maybe about 2 weeks ago, like, I, as someone who lived near the old site, definitely, when I first drove out to the new one, went, oh, okay, this is a distance, and we know we have transportation challenges as a city. What I just wanted to highlight with this map real quick is I got curious, okay, population density in Tulsa County. Oh, I'm far away, I'm terrible. You must hate me right now.
All right, I have a mic. Population density in Tulsa County. I wanted to really look at that, and I asked someone within, I think the planning office helped us generate this map, and I had looked at some other ones through, the census. This is 2020 census data, so fairly updated. But when I was thinking about this, and I was going, okay, where are the current early voting sites? One I'll highlight is right up over here. This is a big population density area, which, as Councilor Bengal pointed out, obviously needed and should have had better access sooner. And then the other, second one they added in is down here. Geographically, I could understand why that may have been a need in that part of Broken Arrow. Relative to how much more population density exists throughout the rest of our city, kind of hard to argue. And when you think about Sand Springs, Sperry, Owasso, really disparate. So we're talking about a site that is, in kind of straight east Tulsa, straight east of downtown, and then significantly southern end of Broken Arrow. So I just wanted to highlight to folks that these two sites are very distant relative to a lot of the population center. Then I got curious, per Councilor Bengal's point, and then the law that was mentioned by Senator Goodwin about, okay, where is, where are the voting sites in other counties? Because each one, a lot of them, they only do have one. You do have Cleveland County that has 9, six, which is a wonderful amount of voting and early voting access. But when we look at these other ones, so I'm going to make a really vulnerable confession to everyone. I used AI and generated another map. I know. It was one of my first times doing that because I was just like, how do I scrape from this website to make a map? So I tried it, and I looked across the list of all the other county sites to go, if they only have one early voting site, some of them have 1 or 2, and especially those much smaller and less populated counties than us, I could get why they would do that. Theirs were all in their city center. And that's the other thing that I actually thought was pretty wild about this. It makes sense to me, looking at that population density map, to have the election board where it now is near a really dense area. That's great. And we also have a lot of sprawling density across our urban core.
And it is pretty weird to have a major city, which is definitely in our county, Tulsa, not Broken Arrow, not have one in at least our urban core. And so that's, I just think geographically that's challenging. I definitely want to have that conversation with the election board. I know you all have already been doing that. But I do just think logistically it would make sense for us as the population center of a city for the whole county to say, hey, like, if we're gonna have early voting sites, it would make a lot more sense to have an additional one if we can only have one other one, if it's financially not feasible to have more than two. That second one being where it is in Broken Arrow, relative to population density, like doesn't make a ton of sense and is really challenging for the bulk of the population and for our, those outlying towns that are growing like Sand Springs. So that's where I just kind of looked at this from this map population density perspective and just find where we're at right now to be really challenging from a voter access level and just weird to be a really relatively big city for our state and then not actually have early voting in or near our urban center. That's pretty unusual, including for the other counties in our state.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
Do you want to add on to that, Counselor Dutton?
Yeah, so I'm concerned as well, and I really think that it would be ideal if we had voting locations in all quadrants of the city. I represent North Tulsa as well, and we have the longest stretch of area, and I can appreciate that we have the voting location now in East Tulsa. If you look at this map also, you'll notice that we don't have a whole lot of voter turnout on the east side and northeast Tulsa, which is really a problem. And I don't know if that's due to transportation, multiple families where there are double parents working, disenfranchisement. So the data income levels would support that this area north of Admiral would be the areas that are in most need of access to voting facilities. And with the bus station closing downtown, that's really concerning to me for people not being able to get to voting locations in a timely manner. As was said, we have a very short window of voting opportunities, early voting. And I think that by closing or not utilizing the downtown location for voting, we are creating a disparaging lack of ability for people on the north side to be able to come and vote and process their democracy, their democratic rights. I support, I think it would be great if we had voting locations, Tulsa County voting locations in all quadrants. I think it would. And the voting records also show that South Tulsa has the greatest access to voting. You could tell by the precincts and the numbers that are reflected on the number of votes that happen each election cycle.
Thank you, Counselor. Did you have a response for
No,
that?
I was just going to say that we've offered a number of sites. One was the, as I say, 555 North Denver. They're saying that's not going to be utilized. We're saying it's sensible. They said, well, right now, we know through this year, they still have ownership of it. We're still paying for the lights to be on. And should we need to change for next year, that gives us more time to think of another site. But we have provided that. We worked with the regional library. They talked about, they were willing to cooperate. Again, we've had people that have provided their sites. And I think in a collaborative fashion, we could come up with something. The bottom line is, we have had time. And to say that we're going to bypass August, I just think there are critical elections. I think anybody that sits around this table, you got there through a process. And we're saying, let's not short circuit that process. And there's nothing squishy about our republic. There's nothing squishy about democracy and this experiment that we are all engaged in. And I just think that any level of government, because you do know the county, the city, the state are all involved in our elections. To that degree, I think your advocacy, your concern is warranted. And I would never use the word interfering. I would use it as advocacy. And I think you sit in your seat because of a constituency.
Thank you, Senator. Councilor Gilbert.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. I mean, it's discouraging that we're not giving other people opportunity to exercise their right to vote. But I'm just wondering, I mean, I see that the locations of the tube and wanting one in North Tulsa, but I'm not seeing one in West Tulsa. So, I mean, and I get that this is a resolution, but, I mean, can we amend it to include West as well, to allow those people to, I mean, it's a resolution, and it's just asking. This is not an ordinance, this is not a law, we're not pushing, we're just asking that you listen to us and you allow us to give other people an opportunity to have chances. Hold on a second.
Oh, yeah.
So.
He's
Okay.
just getting on the queue.
I've
He's getting in the
I've
queue.
been looked at and I've been pointed at. So anyhow, I just want to throw that out there, that I'm not seeing one in West Tulsa. And Councilor Bellis, you talking about Sand Springs growing in population the way that it's going. So I'm just wondering if I'm not here to advocate for Sand Springs. They have to do it their own.
Right, or Broken
So,
Arrow. What's going on?
no, I'm not advocating for Broken Arrow either, so.
I know, right, that's what I'm saying.
So,
Yeah, I'd like to
You can
respond.
respond, and then we'll go to
All
Councilor
right,
Banks.
yeah,
Please go
I
ahead.
appreciate the question, the concern. I would say that in my conversations with Tulsa County Election Board, that at one time they were considering north or northwest. In our meeting on Friday, they did say that it would be north, that they're looking at north. And I think that's important because our conversations, right, have been about north. And I know what it means even when there's a release that says it's going to serve North Tulsa and Skiatook and Turley and Collinsville and Owasso, we don't know where that is. And what we are trying to do is have it in a place as we had been accustomed. Again, the specifics we're not sure, but we certainly don't want it just hither and yon. And that is why, for the last year and a half, I've advocated north, because I know where it was. I know the precedent
Right.
has been established. I know the population density. I know the, quite frankly, how well-used that site was. And I'm saying that provides us time to then look further. But, again, if you can work with the libraries, if you can work with pastors, if you can work with business owners, and they've all provided what we think are some very good sites, but they've been rejected for early voting. We're saying we have, for the last year and a half, been engaged. And I hear you when you say west, yet I can share with you what I have been doing and why. And I hope I've provided the reason.
Councilor Bangle, were you finished, Councilor? Councilor Bangle, and then Councilor Decker Wright.
So I have two legislative questions for you, Senator, if you don't mind. So a lot of times in our state laws, we're kind of tied at the hip with Oklahoma City based on population. Would you agree?
No, I'm not quite sure what you're saying. When
Okay,
you say we're
so
tied
like-
at the hip with Oklahoma
So like
City, I'm not quite sure what you
In
mean.
some of the state languages, the population of 400,000 or more, right, is used in a lot of our state laws,
Okay.
which ties us to Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Basically, what they do, we have to do, right?
Okay.
So my question about that, right, when you're considering, multiple early voting sites, I think Oklahoma City only has one.
In the urban core.
Right, just
Downtown.
one. So they're a much larger population than we are, right? They certainly have a more robust infrastructure than we do. I think obviously you drive with Oklahoma City a hell of a lot more than I ever would. But the traffic and what a challenge it is to navigate that area. But what I would ask is, has the legislation thought about proposing, instead of having the may language in there, potentially saying that in populations of 400,000 where, state law has used that, where Oklahoma City and Tulsa are tied by that language of population, has the legislation not considered changing that permissive language and says, hey, in populations of 400,000 or more, you must have early voting locations relevant to population size or in urban corridors or something to that effect. Have you guys run that type of
So-
legislation? I'm just curious.
Please, yes.
If you don't mind, again, appreciate the question. I appreciate you trying to look at the various angles. I can tell you in our conversations with the county election board, they said to us, any early voting site has to be able to have the capacity of serving 400,000 people.
Right.
That has been expressed to me. I did share that we know that only 26% of that 400,000 actually vote. And that's unfortunate. We all need to talk to our family members
Yep.
and neighbors to try to work on that. But that being the case, that has not had to happen for an early voting site where you talk about 400,000. So there would be no need to do mandated language when you have permissive language. That's the beauty of permissive language. If there is a collective will, it gets done. And it has been done, and they have already said that they're going to do a third site. The question is, where is that going to be? And to your point, I don't think even the Tulsa County Election Board on any given day had to accommodate 400,000 people, whether it's in Oklahoma City,
Right.
whether it's in Tulsa, whether it's in Sperry, wherever. It hasn't happened. And again, to your point, it is an option if you choose to vote over those 3 days for early voting, and most are going to use that same day opportunity. So to your question, no, I don't think it would be beneficial to propose a mandate that it happens specifically there, but what I do know is that there has been a collective will over the last 40 years, plus to serve a population. And again, what we have been accustomed to, what we're simply saying is that it's not about anything other than access. And if we around this table can understand that, right, there's nothing contentious about that. There's nothing, and it's about advocacy. So in answer to your question, I don't think it would be beneficial to do a mandate. I think, when you have permissive language, it's a little more broad. You are able to do more, and a mandate sets you, and it's fixed. This allows us to have that breadth and depth of what we need to do.
And I appreciate what you just said, the permissive language. So I'm going to bring up my little bill that I've been advocating for our Board of Adjustment. And this is where I get a little twisted with the state sometimes. The state, when we talk about permissive language versus you shall, right? So the Board of Adjustment is one of those things, right? I've been advocating for permissive language that allows us, because we are joined in Title 11 to Oklahoma City on our Board of Adjustment. So what they
Council,
do.
we're getting a little off topic.
I know, I'm going to come back to this.
I'm
Sorry,
so
Jack.
excited to
He
find
tried
out
it,
how.
though.
I know.
I am, but what I'm saying is when you're saying permissive language fits this situation, but it doesn't fit this situation, when you're talking about advocacy, right? How do legislators determine what is advocacy and what is required in shall versus may?
May.
Yeah, how do you make that declaration? Because in this regard, Senator, in my view, this should be a shall, based on this map. As this map changes, shall should drive this map on what we do in the county and in the city, because we're a data-driven society now. So that's my point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, one, I want to stay on topic in
Yes,
terms of
ma'am.
why we're here today.
Sorry, Jack.
No, and to your point, what the statutes read, that's how they read today. And that is what we are, I hope, that's what we're having a discussion about. As it relates to your other question, feel free to call the office, and we can talk about some other topic on
Yes,
another
ma'am.
day. But right now, if we could find agreement, I hope, on this issue, that's why we're here. And as it relates to that other, I'm not quite sure it's germane to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, exactly, Senator. I was just making the comparison of shall versus may,
Right.
right?
I love
When
this
is it
analysis
relevant?
of
When is it
linguistic
relevant,
modality.
and when does the
and
state
verbs.
determine permissive versus compelling?
Thank you, Counselor.
Yep.
Ms. Andrews, jump in real quickly, and then we'll go to
I'll
Counselor
be quick.
Counselor Dr. Wright.
I'll be quick. I want to speak to an issue that my counselor brought up about, are we fighting for West Tulsa? And then I want to loop in what Counselor Dutton said about having a location in each quadrant. I'm for everybody having more access. I'm for everybody having more access. But as someone who's lived in Tulsa for 50-plus years, I have watched how whenever we conflate the language, when we start out talking about North Tulsa, which I have never lived in, so be clear about this. When we start out talking about North Tulsa and we start looping in other parts of the conversation, North Tulsa gets pushed to the side. That's what happens. And so I am all for, let's look at the state, let's look at this map that Councilor Bell has put forth and deciding what needs to happen. But this conversation started out being about North Tulsa, and I want to make sure that North Tulsa doesn't get pushed to the side, moved to secondary, oh yeah, we'll get to it, which tends to happen. And then let's have a conversation about spreading the map. But first, let's settle the issue about ensuring that the voters of North Tulsa continue to have access to early voting.
Thank you. Counselor Dr. Wright.
Thank you. Sorry for my lateness. I had another business matter to tend to, but as you know, I'm a co-sponsor on this. Thank you, Councilor Hall Harper, for bringing it to our table. Thank you, Senator. And, I know y'all have been working on this for more than a year. As somebody who represents a district where the early voting site has been for more than 10 years, Hardesty Regional Library, I can guarantee 400,000 people could not fit on that site. In fact, as someone who has early voted there and chose to then come to Denver, it was actually easier and more accessible for me as a downtown employee to vote early in downtown, which is now part of District 1. So when we talk about North Tulsa, I know we're talking geographically above, Admiral, but when we talk about District 1 specifically, downtown is now part of District 1. Downtown now has more people living in downtown than ever before because of all of our housing. So we're talking about access for all, but taking that North Denver site down and then putting something way out at 121st almost, way east, is not giving more access to this urban core, it's giving less. And as somebody who has voted early at Hardesty Library, has a lot of constituents who have voted early there, including folks in the county as far south as Glenpool, Bixby, obviously Broken Arrow. There's never been 400,000 people on that site in the 3 days of early voting. It has been crowded, it has caused neighborhood challenges and things that we would overcome. So some of the arguments that I'm hearing for why we can't stay in the urban core is a little challenging for me, especially given the national and state level policy changes and emphasis on how certain people will be allowed to vote and others maybe not so much. I don't know if that's causation or correlation, but it's certainly not lost on any of us at this table and certainly not our constituents. I think yesterday in a conversation the senator and counselor and I had, there was a question posed about using the Denver location as the alternative site. It's still owned by the county. The taxpayers are still funding its security, air conditioning, lights, and everything else. So to me, that seems like an easy go-to as a secondary site, now that most people will probably be going out to the Skelly Drive. As those of us who've recently filed for office know, it's not an easy location to find. The signage is not great, the approach, you have to be coming from a certain direction and hit that turn right at the right time. And I did early vote there in 2024 when it was the alternative site. We moved away from Hardesty, moved to that site, and then still had the Denver site. They had us queued in the grass. It was hot, and so we do need an alternative in the urban core. I don't think anyone that lives in downtown Tulsa, North Tulsa, east, west North Tulsa is going to find their way out south to Broken Arrow. So then that puts them all going to the Skelly Drive location, which if you voted early in 2024, and I realize that was maybe one of the first times they used the site in that way, it was not a swift process. We were in line for a long time.
And bus routes have been cut.
Yes. The other thing that I'll say is whether it's back at Denver or at some of these alternative sites that the senator and the counselor have gone to community to ask for. I recognize that the secretary would like to be one and done, but we haven't been one and done. We went from Hardesty to this new site. We've used Driller Stadium
Yes.
during the pandemic, so we haven't been one and done.
Yes.
And so if we could just even use Denver or 36th Street North, which is on a bus line, and is still accessible for Owasso, Sperry, Skytook, Collinsville, Sand Springs, they can get to 36th Street North and Peoria. And there's parking out there and everything else. I think we need to run this resolution as a unified voice of the city of Tulsa. We have a very important election in August, including several council seats and the ONG franchise agreement. And so, obviously, people can vote by mail. There's not insignificant barriers to how we do that in this state with the required notary. But the final thing I'll say about it is if we have it closer to downtown core or accessible on this corridor by highway and public transportation, we have a lot of shift workers who can't vote on a Tuesday. Certainly in my community, which is more of a bedroom community, District 5, more of a bedroom community, District 6, people are commuting in, whether they're commuting in to downtown Tulsa or not, they need a Saturday site. They need a Friday lunchtime site. And there's more workers in the downtown core and closer to these alternatives we're talking about than way out here at 121st and Lynn Lane or 129th East Avenue. So for that perspective as well, you talk about a nurse who has to be at a 7 a.m., 7 to 7 shift on a Tuesday. That means they're arriving at the hospital at 6:30 a.m. They're not going to be able to go vote in the middle of the day, but they could go on a Saturday or the Friday. Same thing for all manner of third shift workers. So again, my understanding is county commissioners have been approached on this. They know that the Denver site could possibly be reactivated. So I just think the argument that we need to be one and done is not anything that we've done in the last 6 years. So we could wait another year or two to figure that out, but time is of the essence now. They're going to have to publish that site. I think they're about to announce it any day. And taking it as far north as outside of the city limits, I just think does not solve the problem. I mean, we're not talking about just geography. We're talking about population and access. So I hope that we'll have full support on the resolution. It is on for tonight. And it does carry the emergency clause. Councilor Lakin's not here, and I don't know if he would be supportive of this, but I hope those of us that are here will get to 8 and send a strong signal to the county that we expect that not just residents of the city of Tulsa, but people who work in our city would have access to early voting in person in a location that is readily accessible on a lunch hour or in between shifts or something like that, not going clear across town to get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Harper, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, you just give me about 3 times.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
It's fine. I mean, I appreciate everyone's comments and concerns, but, I mean, I just have to speak my heart to this, and I just think it's voter suppression. Point blank, period. We make accommodations for certain sides of town, and we don't, and we justify it for others. And I just have to call it like I see it, because this is ridiculous that we even have to do this, in my opinion. It really is. We moved from downtown, way out east, and we're not making any accommodations for where we left when it comes to early voting. It's common sense. I mean, and we can get all into maps and I know the data, and I get sick and tired of hearing we're data driven. We're not data driven. We pull data, but when we sit down to make that vote, we do not look at data. I just don't believe that. So it's frustrating as hell to me, but it is what it is. Tulsa way.
Anyone else? All right, well, I appreciate you all willingness to be here, and this is on for tonight.
It is.
The Cares and Emergency Clause, so people will be able to speak on it. So please, if you have additional thoughts, please come and share. Thank you all. Thank you, Senator.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for the time. Thank you for the
All right,
questions.
excellent. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to jump back up to Amari Jamerson. This is for,
Mr. Chair,
yes?
I'd also like to thank Sarah Davis for jumping through the hoops pretty quickly to get this resolution language to us timely.
No?
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
There we go. Not all heroes wear capes, but
That's
sometimes
right.
they wear pink blazers.
On Wednesday.
All right, we are, okay, appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board / Gilcrease Board of Trustees. You will be replacing Shane Fernandez. Term expires May 1st, 2030, coming from Council District 1. Welcome, Amari. Will you please share just a little bit about yourself and why you would like to serve?
So Amari Jimerson, currently involved in women's health, run a nonprofit organization, the Oklahoma Birth Equity Initiative. Was formerly, before this role, the deputy director to Parks. So familiar with the way the system works when it comes to getting things done with Parks and some of the difficulties that we've had in the past, which I've heard you guys have come a long way. So I'm excited to see where things are right now.
Wonderful. Councilor Dr. Wright?
Thank you. Well, I'm always impressed by people like you who do all the things and say yes when they get the call.
He was voluntold.
Yes. I think it speaks highly to the fact that you did serve at the City of Tulsa in this department and you are willing to step on the volunteer side. That takes extraordinary insight from folks and a willingness to come back and serve in a new way. So I was
And
excited.
also just want to say, haven't completely stepped away, have still been involved in what's going on at Chamberlain Park
Sure.
until it got followed
Yeah,
through.
always from a community lens, which I also appreciate, and I appreciate that this also includes the Gilcrease. That's very important, especially as a District 1 resident, with all these folks coming through as that reopens. So I'm an absolute yes. I'm a little, as your friend, like, how is she going to have time? But as I understand personally, 10% of the people usually do 90% of the work. So I thank you for your willingness to serve and bring all aspects of your personal and professional expertise to the table. I think it's a huge coup for us to even have you considering this appointment. And I'll certainly look forward to confirming you on the 5th.
Anyone else? Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilor Hall. I just didn't call.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that.
No,
It's a superpower.
when I said that she was voluntold, it was not by me.
That's good.
It was not her.
Distance yourself. It was not me, but I certainly got the call as for my recommendation or for my thoughts on it, and I said absolutely, if she has time, good Lord, because I full disclosure, I know her personally, and so yeah, the things that she do is just crazy. But to her point, even though she's not been with Parks, whenever I have a Parks question, I still call her. I still call her.
Oh, I hadn't thought to do that. That's a good idea.
Look, y'all just said I was busy.
And she tells me who I need to talk to, and what I need to do every time. I mean, because I know she has the information and it'll come quick. So, but yeah, thank you for your willingness to serve, and we appreciate you. And
Wonderful. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay,
I
so,
raised my hand.
I'm sorry.
Am I invisible too?
No.
Or
So I guess
I
you're
guess
not
we got the same
colored.
superpower.
Yeah.
Plus I'm a Wonder Man. So thank you, obviously, for serving. I love Parks. You're serving in quality of life things, and so I think that's important. And so having people that are experienced in this and have some understanding of it, I think is just beneficial to all of us across the city. So thank you. for serving in that capacity.
Now, anyone else, raise your hand real high, just so I can see.
We're going to put buzzers on the table.
That's right. All right, we will be voting on you next week on the 5th, and you are more than welcome to attend and speak if you'd like. So thank you so much for your desire to serve.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 4, ordinance amending the fiscal year 26-27 budget to transfer unencumbered and unexpended appropriations of various GO bonds, series GO bonds. So we are welcoming Paul Zachary to the table, and someone who
Jay Cap, Capital Budget Manager.
Absolutely. Well, take it away, guys.
Well, just wanted to highlight, we're taking this action, Public Works, we're just going through and cleaning up residual balances, and there's 28 projects. I won't go into detail of all the projects, they're listed further out there. But the key is we're cleaning up residual balances and also working with grants that we've received, which is helping us to take the money back to these other projects that voters have voted on and making sure that they can get completed in a full manner. And Mr. Zachary can go into more detail about specific questions you may have.
All right. Any specific questions that we have? Well, that's all right. You're getting off. Oh, no, okay. Councilor
What
Gilbert.
are the projects, the other projects that might need additional?
We have 246 projects that are in the design.
Could you tell us each?
Yes,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
they're actually in your attachment. You will see those in the back. They're highlighted in blue. Just so you know, in 2023, after we had the spike, we had anywhere from 50 to 70% increases in commodity for projects. The then council, we talked with Councilor Q, what were we going to do with all this inflation? And so we reported in 2023, prior to the vote for IOT3, that we were projecting a $147 million shortfall in the street program. So in the 2023 program, we got $93.8 million additional to help make up for inflationary issues. We were then also going to we looked at savings potentially like these, that we just roll back into the transportation program and use that, and then also increase our going after STP projects, which is federal grant transportation money. We had planned on doing 12 million in those programs, and now we've exceeded over 20 million in that. So what we're doing is we're chipping away at that projected $147 million shortfall. So one of the reasons we really want to put a hedge around these dollars. These are needed dollars for capital projects. So what we're doing we sweep this at least once a year, but we sweep it all into citywide arterial and non-arterial rehab. And that allows us to work across the board in all these projects. So it's critical that it stays in the transportation program, and that's really why I'm here. And I appreciate Jay mentioning it, but I just want to let you all know we have 246 outstanding projects that are getting funding this year, next year, and the following year that are in the design and construction. And it's everything from getting in the field. We have a couple of projects in your area where we ran into a total reconstruction requirement that we were planning on doing mill and overlay. So there are some things that are unforeseen, it's cost issues, and just things that we can't overcome by altering scope. So it's just a balancing act, and we want to just keep this going until we finish every project. And our sales tax, we are batting 1,000% with those folks. We've not done a project, and we take that very seriously, as do you guys when you process the sales tax packages. It says that we can all lose our jobs if we spend money inappropriately in these programs. So we are rotating this back in, and we're going to spend the oldest money first, and you'll read that there's IRS penalties that we actually pay if we don't spend it fast enough. So we get the old money, and then we spend it first, and we just try to keep as current as we can. So we appreciate your hearing all this, but we would really ask for your approval of this so that we can keep our house in order in the street program.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Any additional comments?
Sorry, I just had to ask.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. Moving right along, item number 5, housing and urban development grant funding recommendations from the HUD Community Development Committee for Program Year 27 in accordance with Title 12, Chapter 8, Section 804, et cetera, et cetera. Reese is with us.
Morning, councillors. There are, just to clear up, there's no recommendations being made with this item. Every year during our annual plan, we're required to, the committee puts together a priority needs statement. So we have a needs assessment hearing. As you guys are aware, we are in the first year of our, so we just finished the first year of our consolidated plan on 6/30. So we don't actually have any data yet for that year. So the priority needs are pretty much the same as what they were during a consolidated plan. So I won't read them out to you guys, but same. We have not solved Tulsa's issues in the first year of our consolidated plan. So we still have affordable housing issues and homelessness issues and low-income people.
Sure. Councilor Bellis.
Yeah, totally fair that. If it was simple, we'd have it done. So of course it's really complicated and there's multiple years needed for implementation. I was just curious if within this first kind of year of, I know, like kind of ongoing planning for implementation and things like that, are there any specific barriers that have come up? I know that could be from like a grants, I don't know, like, you know, fidelity side of things, or also, I was just curious, just knowing lots of different things cause friction in these types of processes, if there's something that you think we should, that would be helpful for us to be aware of, or something we could do to make things smoother, or, yeah.
I don't think so. We've had a few agencies struggle to spend down, but more based on like regulations from HUD, changes to, you know, requirements and verifying people have made it a little bit harder on them to qualify people. So that's not from their side, but just based on federal regulations.
Like the regulatory whiplash kind of thing, because did the regulations shift after they'd been granted dollars, or?
So no, with our latest grant agreement, there was an addendum in there which included language.
Okay.
People had to be checked through the SAVE US immigration. HUD was supposed to issue guidance on that. Here we are, a year, probably 18 months later, we still don't have any guidance on HUD. And as recently as like the last couple of months, that SAVE is through the US Immigration Service. You were able to put in a name and a social security number and it would come back. They've taken away the social security number. So we currently don't have a way to verify people that were actually born in the country because the only documents you can now upload are like your naturalization certificate number, like birth abroad, like currently right now, like our housing and demolition program don't have a way to verify using the system somebody that was actually born in the US. So, yeah.
Well, we will not be able to solve for that, but that is, I mean, I think that's a helpful thing for us to even know, especially just as, I know we're always trying to figure out community partnerships and how to make sure that dollars, like, you know, we're removing friction and red tape for all the partners we need to make all this work happen. So that's just helpful to be aware of, so thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Reese, for being with us. Item number 6, resolution approving the issuance of indebtedness in the amount not to exceed $2 million by Tulsa Authority of Economic Opportunity by the issuance of its promissory note and other evidence of indebtedness in connection with the authority's loan to the T.D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation for a program-related investment, PRI, loan regarding the Equitable Housing Demonstration Project. This comes with the emergency clause. Aaron is with us, and
This is a long time
Nia
coming.
is with us. All right.
So I'll give a quick intro, then I'll let Nia take over the show. I don't think there's anything more Teo than this project here. So I want to applaud Renita, Nia, Vicky, who's retired, and Partner Tulsa for bringing this opportunity to our city. Basically, what you're seeing here is an opportunity for us to take people in our community who have been incarcerated and help them to find housing. We should not address the issue of how hard it is for those who are incarcerated to find housing, but also helps our homeless issue as well. Because but for finding proper affordable housing, some people could end up on the streets. So this hits at a twofold level. A $2 million loan to Teo at 1% interest that will help support, like I said, affordable housing for those in our community who have been incarcerated. And once again, kudos to Nia and her team for making this happen and bringing this opportunity to our city. And I'll now turn it over to her to dive deeper into this program. Thank you, Nia.
Thank you, Aaron. And good morning, counselors. This is related to the Just Home Project. Aaron gave a great background, but Tulsa was selected as a site for national demonstration of equitable housing for justice-involved individuals. I'll read the purpose really quickly, but the purpose is to break the connection between housing instability and justice involvement by increasing access to quality, affordable housing for individuals returning from incarceration, while reducing disparities within the criminal justice and housing systems. Excuse me, I had my tea this morning. But the local goal for Tulsa is to provide, at first we were looking at just 20 units, but once we identified our development partner, Robinson Properties, excuse me, let me do a big one. I'm good, I think I'm good, yes, thank you. I'm good. But we've identified that we'd be able to provide 23 affordable housing units for justice-involved individuals. I do want to highlight the partners that we're working with for this project. MacArthur Foundation, who is the funder of the program. Urban Institute operates as our technical assistance provider. They were just here over the past 2 days, kind of having in-depth conversation with all of our community partners. We're working with Housing Solutions, Terrence Crutcher Foundation, Family and Children's Services, thank you, Robinson Properties as our development partner, and the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office. I have also here listed Starling Analytics, who will be, they're like our evaluators, so they look at the process that we are implementing as far as identifying the participants in the program and kind of track where they are and basically the success of the program. They look at them for at least 6 months after they've been placed into housing to identify whether the program was a success and being able to compare it to other sites that are selected for this project. So specifically, the request of the council is to allow or authorize Teo to incur the indebtedness of up to $2 million for the loan we plan to receive from the MacArthur Foundation. As an authority of the City of Tulsa, we are required to seek City Council approval for incurring any debt. So it would be a $2 million loan, as Aaron mentioned, 1% interest, that would be repaid quarterly, and then a balloon payment at the end of 10 years to repay that $2 million. The council is not approving any borrowing of funds. This is a loan directly to Teo, and council or city would not be responsible for returning payment on this debt. Thank you. So, to go through how the PRI loan will be utilized, we've broken it down into 2 phases. We've identified housing properties within District 3 and District 4. There will be 2 sites within the first phase. Will be deployed $1 million from the MacArthur Foundation that will go towards the standing up of 10 affordable units. 1 site within the first phase will have 8 dormitory-style units, kind of what we just call a boarding house. But it'll be 8 rooms. They'll have access to a small refrigerator, but there'll be common amenities within that first site for the participants to use. But that will constitute a refi and a rehabilitation of those units. A lot of the partners and the Urban Institute, we were able to tour these sites just Monday. So we're excited to see what will come of them once they're completed. Site 2 within phase 1 is the acquisition and rehab of another property. That property it's a 4-plex and it has 4 units total, but only 2 of the units will be dedicated to the Just Home participants. So again, all of Phase 1 will deliver 10 units, and we're looking at a 6-month delivery time frame for those units to come online. Phase 2 of the project will be the second $1 million from the loan, and that will be able to deliver 13 affordable units at one property. That will be a refi and a rehabilitation of that property. It's a mix of one bedrooms and studio units within that property. That is the site. Do we use it? Toss. Sorry.
No, no, you keep going. I'm
okay.
just trying to get the chairman's
Okay, gotcha.
attention. Thank you.
This is the site where we plan to have on-site case management, but someone who will be able to provide case management for the entire project, so for all 23 units, but we'll have a dedicated space for case management at this third site. And this last slide just kind of goes through the structure of the program, and because it's a 10-year loan and a 10-year program, how we look to the future and how we will try to measure success. So as I mentioned, we'll get a $2 million PRI loan from the MacArthur Foundation. It's a 10-year term. Then Teo borrows those funds, and we work with the community partners to identify how the participants will be successful and what their ongoing services will look like, how we identify the participants. That's what, right now, we're going through that process to determine, working with the jail and with Family and Children Services, Housing Solutions, building up the criteria to identify the participants. Once we have the funds, that first phase, we worked with Robinson Properties to do the rehab of the units that we've identified. And if you know Robinson Properties, they're also management. They also manage their properties. They're a great community developer, and they already work with this population. So we thought they were a great partner to work with. But there'll be a sub-loan recipient, so they will technically be responsible for that balloon payment at the end of the 10 years. So once we deliver those housing units, those 23 housing units, we'll look at having ongoing case management, where we're providing supportive services for the participants, just making sure that they remain stable and successful in those units. We'll even break it down just based on the location where we place someone, how long they'll be able to stay there, or if we're looking for, 6 months to a year turnaround, just to make sure that they're able to be stabilized and, obtain employment. That's kind of the second part, but employment and economic opportunity, making sure that we can help with job placement, financial coaching, just all the things that becoming a, upstanding, stabilized citizen of the city of Tulsa, understanding what their needs are. We'll also look at household stabilization, looking at what the needs are just to be placed. So once they're in a home, if they're coming from incarceration, they may not have couches, beds, pots and pans. So we're also looking at being able to provide those needs, and even things like gas cards, or just minor things that people, a regular day person takes advantage of, or takes for, but yes, we want to make this an ecosystem for the participants, where they have access to different resources and are able to be successful in the long term. And just at the bottom, I just stating how we're kind of making protections for Teo for the loan. We are making sure that we're in first position for these loans. We require MacArthur requires financial reporting, but also requiring that from the Robinson Properties group to ensure that we're just in compliance with the loan agreement. We'll have restrictive covenants that state that these units are to remain affordable for the 10 years at 60% AMI and below. And they have also provided us with a personal guarantee to ensure that loan, ensure repayment. So that is really all I have. I know there's a lot of details we could probably get into, but I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Thanks so much for this presentation. Very nice. Councilor Bellis, Dr. Wright, and then Dustin.
She was actually first.
I'll go first, and I'm sure that'll tee you guys up.
Great.
Thank you for this presentation. I'm glad to hear it's Robinson Properties, a local owner, operator that's operated in good faith, even when
He's your guy.
they've had to come before us for, the little codes here and there, it's always been remedied, and so I appreciate the ongoing relationship. I know that they have intentionally redeveloped properties that were in blighted areas and made sure that they are affordable, whether it's required by their loan or not. I did want to get some clarity. When you say affordable, 60% AMI, are we talking from a pricing standpoint or actual voucher acceptance?
We wouldn't have, right now, we won't have access to vouchers.
Okay.
So it is just based on the
Pricing
unit, so,
model.
yeah, so, because it's, all of these are one-unit bedrooms, one person, it'd just be based on the HUD
Okay.
specifications.
That was the other question I had. Is it restricted to one person, or would couples also be allowed?
We are, right now, I think we're looking just at single people.
occupancy.
That boarding house that I mentioned, that would likely be one sex of a person, one gender
Sure.
that would be able to occupy those units. But right now, we don't have any two-bedrooms or anything larger than a
Okay.
one-bedroom.
And is the concept that this would be transitional housing or more like permanent supportive housing?
Permanent supportive housing.
But with a time limit?
Well, I'm just saying, it's a minimum time limit, not,
Okay.
yes, I'm sorry, so.
Not a maximum?
Yes, so we would want them to stay, like the boarding house, we're looking at maybe 6 months as a minimum stay,
Okay.
and the others a year. Especially, we don't want the Robinsons to be inundated with people turning over so quickly, so yes.
That's more stability.
Yes.
Also for the caseworkers.
Correct.
And then, so the lease terms would be 6 to 12 months minimum?
Correct.
Okay. Will these units be inspected by the city of Tulsa's multifamily team or HUD?
We have talked about working with the CDBG grant group to do inspections. We haven't spoken with them yet,
Okay.
but I think that's a good overlap to be able to use them for inspections. But we do require through the Robinson agreement that it is up to HQS standards for
Okay.
inspections.
And there'll be
Yes.
regular inspections?
Yes,
Okay.
annually. yes.
Okay, great. And then on the case management side, obviously that's not through the property owner. Where is that coming from?
The Family and Children Services,
Okay. That's the
their
other
staff will be
partner.
able to do that, yes.
Okay. I think that covered it. I saw the map. It's in D3 and D4. When will we know locations, or is it just going to be in general?
I did speak with the counselors for District 3 and District 4. We don't want to release addresses right now, but we are looking towards, once we have work completed, especially the last unit, there's kind of a story to tell, or last property, there's a story to tell that we would want to be publicized.
Okay.
So we would look at having like a grand opening once everything is completed. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm fully supportive of this. I know these two counselors have advocated as well. In my community, we have transitional housing for people coming out of rehab. Some of them are justice involved because of that. For the most part, those properties operate quietly, just everyday folks trying to get to work,
Yeah.
take care of kids,
Yeah.
reconnect with family.
Yeah.
And so I know, there's always strong emotions around these things. I frequently say to my own constituents, if you've called City of Tulsa to complain about people sleeping rough and unsheltered, this is the solution, is permanent supportive housing.
Right.
Transitional housing, affordable housing. So I'm grateful for the grant and the ability to activate these dollars. I think a 10-year term will give us a lot of information about how it's working or not working or needs to be improved. And I know that my partners on the council will certainly be very involved with their neighbors and balance neighborhood.
One of these will be my neighbor, actually.
Yeah,
so-
and balance neighborhood concerns with the overall strategy that we have in place. So thank you for being willing to take the lead on this, because I know it's not easy. It's one thing to talk about, it's another thing when it's showing up literally on your doorstep or in your backyard. And I think we'll educate as we go along. And, knowing what we know about Oklahoma and the rate of incarceration and who it impacts and how, I think this is just a greater way to understand how those policies show up in an everyday situation. One more question. So what sort of vetting process of the tenants will there be? Is there like a history of violence? domestic violence, those kinds of things.
That is what the conversation has started now, or as of, 2 days ago, what that process will look like. The Family and Children Services has an agreement with the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office to have them be able to get information about inmates who have either recently left or are about to be released. I think one item we're looking at is just making sure someone that's coming out doesn't have like a pending case that they could potentially go back to jail. So we're going through that vetting process and what that looks like right now to identify the criteria to, one, assess a participant and then kind of drill down on what would be the best fit for them and would this program be a good fit for them.
The other thing I would just say, or would be remiss if I left out, right now in neighborhoods across the city, gated, all the way down to affordable and below market rate, we have people who are justice involved.
Sure.
And a lot of them, we wouldn't even ever know. So these second chance housing, and that leads to jobs and just, you've paid your debts to society and you're reintegrating is exactly how the system is supposed to work. And so I would just encourage anyone who wants to just kind of marginalize a group that's already challenged to just think about the people in your own circles that that have had to be justice involved for whatever it is. A lot of it is substance use related or poverty related, and so those are all things that affect our community. But I would say even in the more affluent communities, there are people that are justice involved living in your neighborhoods, shopping in your grocery stores, working next to you, and it's not our business to know. I think if there's a violent history, certainly a registered sex offender or something like that, we would know about those things. So I would hope, especially in a group setting. So I feel confident that, especially under the leadership of these two counselors, that those kinds of things will be asked and answered and reviewed. Family and Children's, and certainly Partner Tulsa is taking some sort of risk here, but it sounds like you guys are balancing that. And thank you again to Robinson Properties for being willing to step out in this way, which seems to me an extension of how they've already chosen to run their business, which is, before government or nonprofit dollars were even in the mix. They were putting their own skin in the game, their own financial future on the line. They have children that they raise in this community, and they show up in this community in lots of different ways. So again, just thank you to them for being the willing partner.
We'll go Bellis, Desmond, and Counselor
It's Gilbert.
Gilbert.
She's flipping it somewhere. Okay, I was just, I'm excited about this. As I just mentioned, one's in really close proximity to me, so I will be a neighbor, and I'm excited about that. I know I'm a classic yes in my backyard person for things. I own that. But I'm really excited about the dorm style one too. I've actually been in the buildings that are the ones in your district before, and they're both so cool. So I'm excited to just also see properties that have been vacant for so long get revitalized. I was just gonna serve this to my colleagues as just like a food for thought thing. I've had a few, this is related, I promise. I've had a few developers over time bring up the dorm style housing as a way to, because it's so hard to get developers who are willing to do affordable housing, because it's not that feasible for them to be able to even break even. And I know that there's zoning complexities, and maybe it's not very clear in our zoning code what it looks like to create this kind of dorm housing where you have, several units and certain shared, kitchen or laundry or things like that. And I think, as we see this play out and get success from that, I think it is something worth pursuing within our zoning code. Just going, hey, this is an important path for affordable housing. I don't know if I'm looking at you, maybe they've been looking into it, but I think it is something that we need to further visit. I've had other developers mention it as something that would be good for even just older adolescents where, maybe they've finished high school, they're going to college or not, they're new in career. It's just kind of an affordable communal space
Also
for
them. Kids aging out of the foster care
Totally,
system.
especially, transitional. I think it could be, when we talk about transitional housing, we can think about it for a lot of different types of transitions in life. And it is something that just makes things affordable and feasible to build and offers people built-in community. And so if there's something we need to do with our
Don't
zoning
you have an
code.
artist housing project kind of like that?
Yeah, there has been one.
Yeah.
Are you gonna tell us more about that?
There's also-
I'm just it just is something that if there's something we need to do to make this easier to for people to affordably build, and one of the again, within this work, we have like a core example of one of these in a really cool building. Like, is this, like, are they having to do something unique with the BOA to make this happen?
So I'm not an expert on this specific issue, so I think what I'm about to say is correct. Gene Bolmash, by the way, Senior Advisor to the Mayor on Housing. Thank you for inviting me to the table. I wasn't planning on talking during this, but it is allowed in certain zoning districts, and the planning office is looking at kind of simplifying the zoning code and expanding it. So I think they are working on some structural changes to the zoning code, which is going to go before the TMAPC, and then will come before you all hopefully in the coming months.
Yeah.
Sorry, will come before the new Planning Commission, not the TMAPC, which you'll hear about later, and then come before you all soon. So again, it is allowed in certain districts by right, some by special exception, and the Planning Commission is looking to make it more accessible.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I just know that it's what makes some affordable housing builds or rehabs of buildings feasible for developers as well, so it just, yeah.
Councilor Denton?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Mia, especially for meeting with me, as well as the whole team that got this together. I know that Robinson Properties is very happy about this, and really excited to get going on this. I also wanted to acknowledge my colleagues' comments about youth aging out of foster care and group homes. Is there an idea to partner with like youth services at Tulsa to start looking at avenues for?
We hadn't, they're not a partner currently, but I think that's definitely a space to look at to identify any,
They do have justice involved older adolescents, yeah.
And then Family Safety Center, are they also involved?
They have not been, not to my knowledge, but, and again, I've
It's a
actually,
justice.
yes, but
Okay.
I'm just saying that I've kind of come onto this project a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
later in the game, so I'm not sure.
Clients.
Yes.
That's a good point where you have people, as like Still She Rises has a lot of clients where it's oftentimes moms who have like ended up justice involved. Oftentimes they're from an abuse situation, but they themselves have been justice involved.
And I think we're looking at to making sure, as I said, we're trying to create an ecosystem for these participants. So once we identify someone, looking out and engaging with other social services to ensure that their needs are met, and if there's youth services or some other Social Rises that's able to address any of the needs that they have, that's what we'll bring them in for sure.
I appreciate that. I'm just excited for it, especially in my district, and I can appreciate Robinson Properties for being great stewards of my community.
Thank you so much. Councilor Gilbert?
I'm good.
Okay. So, you may have already answered this. Robinson Properties is doing the property management. They will repay the loan.
Correct.
And if they repay it from just the profits of what the justice involved folks paying rent.
Right, correct, yeah, so, but then, like I said, one of the unit or properties, they'll have 2 units that will be market rate as well, so that helps just help with their cash flow for repaying the loan. But yes, they'll repay quarterly, 1%, it's 1% annually, but repaid quarterly, and then at the end of the 10 years, they'll have to repay the $2 million loan. If they up to that, they may not need to use all of it, but yes.
Okay. Well, no, I appreciate it. I've toured some of his homes, and he's doing a lot of great work.
Yeah.
And so, him and his entire team, so thank you so much
Yeah, no
for
problem.
being with us. All right, anyone else?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jean, as well, and Aaron. All right, number 7, let's go. Resolution declaring the intent of the city of Tulsa to reestablish the Crutchfield Neighborhood Local Development Act Review Committee. This is for the purpose of considering an amendment to the Crutchfield Neighborhood Economic Development Project Plan. Aaron is staying with us, and Mike Dickerson has joined us at the table.
Thank you, councilors. I'll do a quick intro and then turn over to Mike to dive into the details. You may remember that in August of last year, I think it was, that we actually approved this plan with the LDARC process. And now, because, and let's go back a little bit, I want to give a shout out to Councilor Hall Harper, who's not here. This Crutchfield TIF has been going for quite some time. We're over 8 years working on this Crutchfield TIF. It's because of that that now that we've gone to the process, that we need to up the levels of some of the project financing on those TIFs in the Crutchfield area. So because we've already gone through the LDOC process before, we're now making a major amendment to that plan because we have increased the cost on some of those districts within Crutchfield. We need to go back to the LDARC and get this one approved as well. And so that's where we are at this state. Once again, a big shout out to Councilor Hall Harper, to Mike and Karen, who have really pushed this through over time. But we're now finally getting to a point where I think once we get through this process, we're there. We're truly there. So I'm gonna let Mike take it from there.
Thank you, Aaron. Mike Dickerson, partner, Tulsa. When we came through last August and we approved the project plan for these districts, we have been working for many, many long months with most of the developers that were identified as the catalytic drivers of projects within those districts. In the last 11 months, we've seen their construction costs increase by between 10 and 20%. The Local Development Act only allows us to administratively increase budgets by 5% without going through the major amendment process, which essentially starts the entire process over again and requires us to reform a Local Development Act Review Committee, propose a new amended project plan, and then bring it back to City Council at the end, yet again. So here we are. We have worked with all of the catalytic developers in all of those different districts on their budgets over the last few months. We have now received and compiled all of those together, and the only change that is being made to the project plan will be to increase those budgets. And again, I do want to remind council and everybody who's listening, these are not costs to the city. These are costs that would be generated from the increment of the new projects that will be coming along from the developers that we've been working with. So no cost to the city, just trying to get more development to happen. And as those construction budgets have increased, so have the expected values of the projects upon completion. So it will be a corresponding wash, if you will.
Great. Anyone? Councilor Baker.
So this is just affecting the whole TIF area, correct?
Correct.
And so are all of the costs specific to one of the districts within that TIF area?
No, they are spread out
More than
across.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they are
it's
spread out
proportionally across
all
all
of
okay.
them, yes. What we ended up doing was, like I mentioned, we had the initial discussions with one of the developers was they had seen costs increase by more than 10%.
Right.
So at that point, we knew we had to reach out to all of them and see if they were seeing something proportionate. And as more time went by, they kept increasing. And we're at the point now where even if we do a flat 20% increase, we will accommodate everybody, but we will not have very much buffer. So it's important that we get it through as quickly as possible so that they can get underway and lock in their contracts with their construction firms.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else have a question or concern? All right. Thank you all. Thank you for being with us, Mike and Aaron. All right, and finally today, item number 8, ordinance amending Tulsa Revised Ordinances, Title 5, Chapter 1, Human Rights Commission, requiring the compliance official to provide quarterly reports of all complaints filed pursuant to this chapter, deleting the requirement to file complaints with the city clerk in addition to the compliance official. I knew it was from Councilor Gilbert because it included quarterly reports. So,
Ooh, that's your bingo card.
It is. I like those.
I'm going to kick it to you and you lead the way.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Without objection, I'd like to call Ms. Hayes to the table and the chair of the Human Rights Commission, Mr. France. So if you all recall, it was probably about a month or two ago, we had an appointee come to us And the one thing that she had mentioned was if we would work on the reporting mechanism. And through that process and through working with Counselor Bellis on her initiative with the ordinance, that was one thing that I kept mentioning because it seemed to be the one hurdle of people actually making reports. Because when we heard the reporting mechanism previously, not very many people were reporting. And so what this is very simple. The Human Rights Commission has also been helping with this. It's just striking the clerk in making reports and just making it simple for people to call 311 to initiate those reports. So, this, again, we talked about this several times about people having to walk through City Hall and getting to the clerk's office to make those reports after some of the things that they have experienced. So we can't diminish their lived experience, but we can try and make things a lot easier for them for reporting. So this is what this is all about, along with quarterly reports coming from, I think it says mayor's designee, which.
It will be us.
Yeah.
Council, thank you so much for that initial. But Counselor Bellis?
Oh, well, I wasn't sure if there was more.
Was
from,
there, from
the
Drew, would you
commission
like to speak to
or-
this as well, or?
The Human Rights Commission, well, really, since Councilor Bellis was directly involved, I think has had the observation that the current process as written in the ordinance may be operationally outdated and that there's room for change and improvement. I would defer to DeAndre in her capacity to really articulate what could happen next if this passes.
Yeah, so what this does for us, we're having some internal discussions, as you know. When you touch one process, it can touch a multitude of departments. So we see this as being a kind of low lift. We're revitalizing the policy as it stands now, but residents now have 3 ways to file those complaints. The one that has been most utilized has been them downloading the form online and walking it into City Hall or mailing it in. And that discussion is what I think kind of kickstarted this need to put in the ordinance to say it doesn't necessarily have to start in the clerk's office. However, we are having discussions with the clerk's office just in full transparency because they are the repository for the city. So that documentation and how we move about that may not change, but we're thinking about ways of how we can make this more accessible to Tulsa residents. But internally, we would like to have an online option that kind of cuts out some of the steps that people have to take now, because if you're not familiar with the process online, it can be a little clunky going through 311 to file the complaint, and we recognize that. So we do want to modernize within the department. So this is the first step to us moving forward with this process, having these internal discussions and our action plan that touches IT, it touches the clerk's office and a multitude of other departments in City Hall.
Excellent, yes. So Counselor Bellis and then Bangle.
Yeah. First, I really want to thank Counselor Gilbert for really being committed to human rights and alleviating burden on people who, as you said, have a lived experience and then having these extra arduous steps. So I'm really grateful for your help, doing this really critical next step. And I've seen random things out there on the misinformed public record that you've ever been a no to anything related to human rights, and just want to make sure that putting it out to the public that she's always been a consistent champion to diligently doing this work and making sure that we're helping everyone be safe. So thank you. And then I had kind of this more of the logistics ends of moving forward. I'm really excited to hear you say, hey, we're going to try to take the online part out of 311. This is years ago when we first, it took so long to even get it in 311, and then that turns out to be so incredibly inaccessible. And that was just with the goal of getting it online. When I was in the Human Rights Commission, we tried this 6 different ways and we're always told no. So I'm glad that there's an internal to the mayor's office champion to go, what's the other tech option here? Because just some quick history. when I first was on the Human Rights Commission, when there was still a Human Rights Department, they would bring an actual, like, this spreadsheet of human rights complaints, they were mostly housing ones, that actually had people's identifying information on it to our public commission meeting, which was obviously, so like, I'm just naming this for once you all figure out what quarterly reporting looks like. I remember like the second that department was gone, and then there was other leadership, they were like, whoa, you all should never have seen all that. That was like, that said though, then after that, we didn't get any reporting. I was like, okay, well now we don't know what the ongoing issues from those reports are. A lot of those had to do with like, you know, physical accessibility and disability challenges. And then I went to try to get reporting from 311 to find any type of trends, and the only report I was ever able to get from them was just about how many calls they got that were in Spanish versus in English. And so like getting even just reporting and data trends from them at that time was also challenging. So I'm just thinking through like once you smooth all of this, and then we're getting, I think quarterly reporting is so important because you really learn so much about what people are saying is an authentic challenge, even if it turns out to not be an official like rights violation. You're still usually going to see a barrier or a safety issue or violence or accessibility challenges. But I'm just trying to think of how to make that data look meaningful. So if that's something that we can, I'm like Councilor Gilbert, I'm like forcing you to like spend more time with me on this one, but I'm like thinking through like once you figure out that internal tech challenge piece, then for what the reporting actually looks like, that could be meaningful, not share anyone's sensitive information, but show us the trends that would help inform policy decisions. Like, I think that could be tricky, so if there's an opportunity for us to circle back with you to do next steps on that one, like, please let us know. Because I'm sure that'll be like it's just sticky to go, what's the level of information that helps us make smart decisions, but isn't intrusive for anyone's privacy, or, you know, sometimes these incidences have to do with demographic information, like race, sexual orientation, physical ability, age, where you're really getting, you can end up really narrow if there's only so many reported cases, where if we discussed it more publicly, it'd be so clear who it was. So I'm just thinking through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Bellis. Let's go to Councilor Bangle and then Dr. Wright.
Yeah, so walk me through the IT challenge.
So the IT challenge as it stands now, individuals who like to file a complaint online, go to tulsa311.com.
You have to make an account.
You have to first find it under H, under Human Rights Complaint.
Oh, really?
And then you go in to put in your information, name, username, it's a registration process, and then you walk through the complete intake form alone versus calling 311. And what we are seeking to do internally is you wouldn't have to go through those multitude of steps for 311 when we're able to modernize the process.
Okay. I'm curious. I love apps, because everybody loves apps now, right? They're convenient.
I just like mobile friendly.
There's an app for that.
Online is
Right?
cheaper.
Isn't that what everybody says now? There's an app for that.
No, that's 10 years
Yeah,
old.
but obviously, I can't see it in this, because I went to go search, apparently the 311 app still isn't in the store. I don't know what happened, they haven't obviously sold it yet. But would there be the potential to, because people do use apps more frequently, to add like, you know, a point in that app? Because we use it for yard
The
maintenance.
Tulsa 311
Yeah,
app.
potholes.
Sounds
and
like they're
all
trying to
these
get it
other
out of the 311 process altogether.
But this would be something that someone would actually
Yeah,
report to the
311
app, and that IT coding would send that case directly to you, and that would be another data. I get the challenge, because I find the city's website terrible myself. We should have hired a web designer to,
It's just too
make
old.
this more simplistic and easier to navigate, so I totally am with you there. But because everybody is now driven by that thing in their hand, is there that potential where it might be, where there might be the ability to do that specifically on that app? Have you explored potentially those challenges?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but I think all ideas are valid. I think insights are
Yeah.
essential to this process as it evolves. We have looked at best practices, we have looked at other cities and some of the things that they're doing, and I know Drew can speak to that because our committee members divided and conquered to kind of do some of this concrete work. So it's been a really collective effort. So as we roll this out, there will be voices that are welcome to the table so we can co-develop this together. But our first steps were to imagine what's possible, to look at what currently exists, to look at any third-party software that other municipalities may be utilizing in a similar system to this. So there's a lot of research that has gone into this before we decide what exactly we build out. And there is a funding mechanism, of course, that will need to be discussed in terms of investment of what this system could look like. So as much as we can do in-house with support is our priority effort and what we want to focus on. And then anything we need to acquire or licensing or any type of technical support, that's an additional conversation. And that often sometimes comes with apps. You usually have a technical assistant or
You have
company that
development
builds
dollars
it
that
out.
are
Yeah.
associated. We already own the app, right?
Yeah.
And so those development dollars and buying a new application, because I would want something that we already own. Is there the potential to develop something we already own and commit funding towards that end?
Just to add a
Versus
layer.
going and buying something off the
Something
shelf?
Just as a layer to you with what 2-on-1's done, sorry, just to be really tangential real quick, because this used to come to the table a lot under fair housing stuff, where they went to build out an app, and a lot of different initiatives have done that over time. And then they realized it was much more cost effective, like Eastern Oklahoma 2-on-1 does this, like just have mobile web friendly like page, which I know is like always like, you know, the underpinning of like what makes things accessible on any website at this point, and that's way cheaper than app development, and then you don't have to do system upgrades and all those things, and outside of like whatever that web platform is. But I think the challenge point that I was always understanding historically was just like, there's a high level of security that pairs with what this data that's being collected is. Because like, I used to just be like, why can't we just have a Google form? It's so easy, I can make one, but obviously that's not the right type of security. I know you're an expert.
I don't know about that, but just to your idea of thought partners, when the mayor heard this challenge, his first recommendation was, have you talked to Black Tech Street, who's working with Microsoft to think about civic workflows and civic accessibility? So we had that opportunity. It may go nowhere, but Microsoft was intrigued, and I think that Black Tech Street was intrigued. So we're shopping it around to try and get all ideas, not reinvent the wheel, learn from others, and do things that are cost neutral or reasonable. So we know there's a better way, and we're kind of in early stages, but I think this kind of housekeeping is a necessary precursor to what comes next.
Councilor Decker Wright.
Yes, thank you for doing this work. Sometimes the wheels of government turn so slowly that it can feel like we're going nowhere, but I'm encouraged. I did want to ask on the quarterly reporting, since we do have best practices and examples, is there something that you could provide to us? Because what I don't want to happen is that first quarterly report comes and we're like, I'd like to have this information. So I would rather know that either the information cannot be shared or make that request so that we have a baseline report over report that we can have this through line through. And to Councilor Bellis's point, there could be things that don't actually rise to the level of being like a human rights violation legally, but if there's trends that we need to know about, then that would also help us as we're making capital improvement suggestions or policy suggestions. So I don't know if there's some reporting that you're already looking at as a template, but maybe if we could just put our eyes on it and say,
absolutely.
this meets our needs. I think we're doing that in the housing space too, as we
Just
start to
like that as
ask for these
indicators.
things, because, you know, ideally, these reports create a collection of things that we can go back and analyze, and then layer in the other reports we get, like from the equality indicators and things like that. I'm sure there's a crossroads here in the Venn diagram that will not be surprising to us once we start seeing it. Also, as people are assured of the ease of the process and the confidentiality, we may get people engaging more.
Yes.
Because I think anecdotally, we hear a lot of things, but they just don't rise to the occasion of going through the formal complaint process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but thank you for engaging in this work earnestly, and, you know, I will also echo what Councilor Bellis raised around other human rights conversations and policy work we've been doing at this table. It's a challenge, and we know that every time it comes up, disparately impacted and marginalized community members are at the forefront of fighting literally for their rights. And so we're very thoughtful and intentional about how we do this work moving forward, because we cannot afford to fail. And I would just say thank you to the counselors here today and those that aren't here, but I know have engaged in the dialogue and the work. And certainly the civil service that is advocating for it, and our volunteers. We have an ordinance that needs to come for a vote, and it will when we feel confident that it'll pass. And so part of that piece was these barriers as well.
Right.
For new people engaging in the process. Again, I know we don't move fast enough for people who need the protections yesterday. I also want to say, I don't think anyone at this table is against providing protections to people. So we just need to go about it in the most thoughtful way and make sure all of our ducks are in a row so that when we say, this is the process, it can be engaged in a way that's accessible and actually meaningful. So I think we're going in the right direction, and I will certainly stand with sponsoring that ordinance when it's time to bring it forward. But I think if we can get these different mechanisms in place,
Yeah.
that's going to position us better overall.
I see
So-
this just as the beginning point of collecting the data to help us move forward.
Absolutely.
So.
And thank you to the
That we
Human Rights-
haven't had
Yeah.
previously.
Thank you to the Human Rights Commissioners as well. I know
Yeah.
you guys have done a lot of the deeper dives. As she shared, kind of the divide and conquer of really looking at every facet and then putting it back together in a way that's gonna work for City of Tulsa. It's one thing to say we have human rights complaint process. It's another thing where it's actually meaningful.
Yes.
And moving the needle, protecting people and improving outcomes.
And that people know it exists.
Yeah, know that it
Right.
exists and know how to
Exactly.
engage with it, and also know that we're not just gonna collect data and go, there's nothing we can do about that,
Right.
We earnestly do initiatives and policies to try to improve outcomes.
And that's my point of my quarterly reports, Counselor Quarterly Report. But to help us with all that information and make sure that we continue to be engaged, but especially just moving forward. But before we close out, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to the legal team helping put this together. I'm always previously I was used to being told no, that we can't do things, but I appreciate Jack's hard work on this and along with his staff in helping us move forward. Thank you.
Drew, did you have something you were going to say?
I think I got everything.
Okay,
I appreciate
perfect.
it.
Well, finally, Councilor Bellis.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
we'll
just
be-
to tag on, I didn't, which, yeah, thank goodness for you. I wouldn't have run for office if it was still the other city attorney. Literally, I will tell anyone that. I know, that's what brought me here, is that we have more neutral city legal now. He's like, stop, don't talk about legal table.
How do we get it done? Not so
Yeah.
much no, it can't be done.
Yeah, it's just good to have someone who's willing to explore your legal options. No, I was just gonna surface as one quick note, like, that I know that this is gonna be really important and make it more accessible for people to, submit reports. And I want to acknowledge real quick that, this type of data can't be the end-all be-all. And there's a lot of people right now who would justifiably be afraid to submit any type of personal information to any governing entity because they're afraid of, like, if any other jurisdiction might be able to get that information if they're not documented, or they're afraid of being on a list for their gender identity or whatever it is. And there are people justifiably who are, nervous or afraid of that. So I also want to say that I think with whatever we figure out tech-wise and from a data privacy standpoint, whatever we can publicly communicate about who holds that data, who has accessibility to it, how secure it is or subject to subpoena or court, whatever we can assure people that, I see the health department, for instance, different government bodies have to do this a lot, just if they've handled any type of sensitive information for people that are vulnerable. And so I know a lot of people may not feel safe filing reports in the first place, especially right now, no matter what we do. So I just want to hold space for that. We're only going to get data of people who feel safe to report to us. So what we can do to, one, make them feel safe or assure them. And I know for certain folks that might never feel safe enough, but I'm glad we're still pursuing to learn what we can and help how we can.
So absolutely. All right, well, wonderful. We'll get together again live at 2:30, even though we do have a one.
We have one.
Is that televised? I don't think so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
It
you,
is?
Counselor.
Thank
The
you.
one is televised. Join us at 1, join us at 2:30, and then join us at 5. All right, we'll see you. We are adjourned.